Good evening and welcome to the Coach's Box. Ray Halbrook here from Live Stream STL. Hope everybody's having a great evening, and we've got a great show tonight here for the Coach's Box. Going to bring everybody in here real quick, and I'll unmute everybody here real quick. Matt Schutte, how you doing today?
Hello, Ray. Greetings from the Imperial Starship Live Streamicus, I suppose.
I like it.
As good a name as any.
I like it.
We're joined tonight. We got a good show prep. I'm jotting notes down right when you go live. So happy to have a couple guests with us. Our regular crew's with us: Coach Chris Miller, Coach Riley Blair, Coach Jason Jarvis down there in the bottom corner. There you are. And tonight we're joined by a couple guests: Zach McVey, head girls basketball coach for North County High School, and he's not in stripes and he doesn't have the uniform on, but Charles Underwood with us. So welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thanks.
So as we talked about before the show started, the more we plan this show, the worse it is. So we don't have a huge script or anything like that we go into, but we get our different guests from here in the area talking about all things local. One of my goals for tonight is to not beat coronavirus to death. Which a lot of radio shows and TV shows have struggled to do. So we won't touch on any of that. Obviously, everybody's life has been altered because of that. Charles, I know you're missing out on probably 3 or 4 baseball games a week. Is that a fair number?
Well, 5, 6. It just depends. What really got me was my college schedule. Kind of killed me. So
you're missing out on a ton there. And Zach, you teach as well, right?
Correct. Yep.
So
nothing in the springtime. Well, junior high baseball in the springtime. Nothing over the summer. But our obviously the middle school season's completely canceled. We were supposed to have a tournament game that same week that school was canceled, and obviously we never came back.
So Ray, you had mentioned it, and I think you're probably a little more familiar with it than I am, but. So the announcement came out today, and it looks like the state's going to start to reopen in bits and pieces at least. So here coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I guess we are going to talk about COVID just a little bit because one of the things we talked about, will our kids get to play summer ball or not? And Charles, let's start with you. Do you think we'll see like Legion baseball this summer or any sort of league ball like that?
Well, right now with Legion baseball, they canceled the World Series, which is usually in August, and in the state playoffs and stuff like that. But we're still haven't heard from the local like Zach, Bone, Junie Bosler, those teams. I mean, they could play, but just to be playing, because they haven't played ball all spring. But as far as making it to the World Series or the state playoffs, that won't happen because they already canceled those. So, and, I usually do a couple of the College Metro League. I'm still waiting to hear from them to see if they're going to have one. It usually starts about late August, first part of June. So right now, it's no news is good news, I guess.
Right. So from a baseball perspective, the Legion's out, but there's the possibility of some local teams maybe just getting together, almost like glorified scrimmages, maybe, or a mini league or something like that, just to put the bat on the ball and get out on the field.
I think that would help. I mean, you still have a lot of seniors that are still looking for colleges to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get them out there and let a few coaches know, hey, we're going to have a little team. If you want to come out and look at a certain player, if they have them on the roster, I'm thinking that's pretty, good. And a lot of us are umpires are itching to get back. I can tell you we're, bored. You can only do so much yard work. So,
yeah. Now, Zach, for your basketball team, do you usually have a summer schedule for them, like a league or like a bunch of camps or anything, or what's going on there?
Normally we'll have a summer league at Farmington hosts. We try and go the last couple summers. We've gone down to SEMO for an overnight trip that the kids have really enjoyed. Try and do. I think last year we went up to South County, St. Louis. Did a shootout up there. I think we helped host with Central a couple different weekend. And right now, I mean, everything's just put on hold. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're obviously not going to be able to do anything until whether the state comes in or even after that, whether we get permission from our actual school administrators.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think Riley and Jason and Chris are waiting to hear if Hillsboro hosts the girls' league. I think Riley, right? And
Yeah, still waiting on that. He said trying to get confirmation from the school. I think he was kind of waiting on that announcement coming from the county today that made the announcement that they were opening up some stuff starting May 4th. So I think that's what he was kind of waiting on, and the schools are kind of waiting on some of that stuff as well.
Gotcha. So, Charles, one of the reasons we wanted to have you on was, lots of reasons actually, but one of the things we talked about is the officiating shortage, and just what we're seeing is, and what a lot of folks are seeing is going from an inconvenience to a big problem. And just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Don't see as many young people doing the officiating now as maybe you would like to see. And just what's your perception of it? Is there a problem with the lack of officials in our area, or do you see it as a broader nationwide problem? What are your thoughts on it?
It is more of a nationwide problem. In this area, for sure, it's, the average official's age is like 55. So, I mean, we're getting older. I mean, we're getting injuries. A few of us have injuries, and we're just trying to get through the season. I mean, I got a buddy right now. Oh, you guys know Rick Bowen. He might be done. He's for football. He's looking at surgery because of a bad accident. I was fortunate enough to have a good doctor, and I got back just in time for basketball, but I had to give up softball. So we're all fighting injuries. There was 3 or 4 of us still had meniscus tears, and we were just getting through the season because, it's people understand it's not about the money, because you guys know we don't make a ton of money. We just love to do it. I look at a lot of us look at ourselves as we're still teaching. We can't coach, but we can actually coach in stripes. We enjoy it. And that's the problem. When you can't get young kids to do it, I have reached out to, every time I see a young kid, I'm like, hey, if you're not doing anything, here's a little extra money in your pocket. It's not much, but, for 2 hours to do a junior high game, you're getting $80. It's fun. A lot of the high school kids, we tell them, if you're not good enough to play in college ball, a lot of people know you're not going to play in college ball. Hey, you can still be active, be an official, and you make a little money at it, put in your pocket. And, especially if you're in college. We had, I think you guys remember Sean McDowell. He played for Pius.
Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't want to go play baseball or anything. He said, no, I'm just going to get my grades. Next, I'm doing a game with him down in Cape. He became an official. Great at it. So he said he put a little money in his pocket, and he loved, being around the sport. He knew he wasn't going to be this superstar, make it to the NBA. So what better way to contribute? So I think needs to be more emphasis on, hey, if I was a parent, I'd be like, hey, if I know my kid is like now in the summertime, nothing to do, hey, go become official, go become an umpire. But being said, I have been to some little league games, and the parents are brutal. I'd be lying if I didn't say. These are 15, 16-year-old kids, trying to umpire 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds. And a lot of you guys know 8 and 9-year-olds can't really pitch, or the ball's way outside. And the kids are doing the best they can at calling balls and strikes because, good well, 3 innings of a little league game can take you 2.5 hours.
Yes.
So, you got the guy who's running the actual umpire and said, hey, call strikes, stuff like that. Well, and then if you get the parents arguing, and then there's some coaches, are screaming at the young kids. And next, the kid's quitting, don't want to do it. So there you go. We can't get him to do high school because he's already been exposed to the bad parent, issues of Little League. So, it's bad. But I wish everyone would do like, I think North County's got a pretty good way of handling some parents if they do get ejected. So, I kind of like that. I wish more schools would come up with stricter punishments for parents.
Well, Zach McVey, what's the secret to dealing with unruly parents? It sounds like you've got the key.
I don't. I definitely. That's for sure. No, but I think we had some issues this year in some of the boys basketball games, even some of the junior high games as well. And I want to say it was at least a 2-game suspension, 2-game home game suspension, to where whether it was a student or whether it was some parents that were asked, hey, you're going to have to take a couple games off. And as far as I know, there wasn't any issues after that. But like Charles says, there has to be some accountability. And I can tell you from experience, with Riley, one of his players, actually, Fowler, Paige, she umpired my son in Twin City Little League, not obviously this past summer. She did an outstanding job. And honestly, she handled the kids, she handled the coaches, and she really handled the parents well for the 10, 11-year-old age group. So that's, hopefully something that she continues to do. It was really impressive.
Yeah. Do you guys see down in North County, you're playing down in that neck of the woods, do you find yourself as a basketball coach seeing the same 2 or 3 or 4 officials most of the time?
It actually seems to rotate by a yearly basis. And I know we do the arbiter. North County does the arbiter. I think Farmington, they go with the SEMO area officials. But we're – whether if it's Jefferson County, South County, Charles can explain that better. But we're with that arbiter, and it just always seems to happen that we'll have some 2 or 3 of the same officials 5, 6, 7 games in a row, and especially when you get to the late part of the season. Maybe it's just the algorithm that they use, or however it is. But it would be nice that for both the schools and for the officials, if there's a way to say, hey, you know what, cap it at maybe 3 games in a row. But I think to Charles' point, there's only so many officials, and you're going to get what you get. And Charles can kind of explain that a little bit better, because you're going to get what you get. You might have people that only want to do boys games, only want to do girls games, don't want to go to certain schools, don't want to officiate certain levels. And so the arbiter has to take all of that into consideration, and you just get what you get.
Yeah. And let's open this up to everybody. I think we're all in agreement. We definitely need more officials. Who should the onus to get more officials into the game? Who should that be on? Is that a mission deal? Is that like the Coaches Association? We've heard from some of the folks involved with those. Charles, if you do what you can as an individual, and you're not the first ref I've heard say that. I've heard multiple instances of referees saying they try to get young people involved. But Jason, Jarvis, let's start with you. Is this something mission should really be prioritizing, or the Coaches Association? Who would you start with?
Well, myself, I've tried to encourage some former players to get involved. But like Charles said, it's kind of hard. Some of these kids will start umpiring baseball games when they're 15 and 14, and they like, well, I don't think I want to do that, coach. And I think we need to get more active as schools. I know DeSoto, I know Coach Barr, whose son goes to our school. I know they're working on grooming officials, especially in wrestling. I know they were, and some other sports. So they're trying to have like a class at their school to try to groom officials. And I think the school districts need to take some ownership to get some kids involved and interested in it.
So, Riley, what about you?
We do a lot with the next level basketball up in the summertime and spring, where we get a lot of our schools together that we play up there. And so a lot of our teams will bring 2 or 3 of our high school girls to officiate with another official at a lot of those games up there. Carrie Eggemeyer from down here does a lot of her games up there, and he's kind of mentored Paige Fowler, and she goes up there, and then Nate Denby from Crystal. A couple of those kids that are doing it. And it's also as well at the YMCA on the men's league. We've had a couple of younger athletes out there doing it. I just think we've got to give them an opportunity to get out there, and maybe being with someone that can mentor them alongside of them, and I think just as a whole, we just got to take time and put the effort into making them, get out there and just say, go out there and see what you think. I mean, worst case scenario, they don't like it. They don't like it. But I think we've got to do that. And I've seen a big bump in, Paige enjoys it. She loves it. Gets out there and does it. And like I said, she even got involved. Zach had kind of talked about, with the baseball and softball at Twin City Little League. And, I asked her about it, and she says, parents are going to be parents, coaches are going to be coaches. So, I just got to stick with what I say, what I think is the right call, and whether right or wrong, I got to stick with it. And
you got to stick with your call.
And that's kind of the thing that that stuck out with me when she told me that. That's what it's all about. Stick with your decision, and it is what it is, and can't change it. So move on. And I think that's kind of the concept that I think some people are paranoid to make the wrong call. And is it the wrong call? It could be, but it is your call. So, and sometimes that's hard to swallow as a coach or a parent or a kid or anything. So, but I think that's more importantly with the younger kids is just get them out there and get them mentored by somebody and put them in an opportunity. Maybe at those junior high games where you may have a official down there that's just doing junior high, put a high school kid out there with them and let them learn it, let them figure it out and be right there alongside of them and saying, okay, that was the right call, get in this position or wherever. So I just think it helps.
And Chris, what do you think?
Well, I think, when I decided I wanted to become a coach, and I actually started Three Rivers, my advisor was Brian Best, Coach Gene Best's son, who was an assistant coach. And he kind of told me, because I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't, but he definitely told me then. He said, if you really want to get a good perspective on the sport from a coach's standpoint, you need to become an official. So at 18 years old, I became an official, and I started doing games. I did it for about a year and a half, and it does give you a great perspective on the game that I still remember those times whenever I was working with older officials doing junior high games, doing high school games. And, I have a good idea. I mean, I know I push the envelope sometimes a little bit when I coach with our officials, but at the same time, I can always go back and remember the times wherever I was booed in my own hometown for a junior high game. So I think the thing that it was one of those things that they told us when, a lot of guys were doing it because I was a PE major, that you had to do sports officiating, the class itself. And they always taught, they were really good about telling all the guys down there and anybody who's wanting to get into coaching that's great. You need to go and become an official. And many of the guys and girls even that I went to college with at Three Rivers, they all went out and became officials for a while. Some of them stuck with it. And then some of us, obviously got into the coaching part of it. I like what Jeff Whitener said on the comments about, people getting college credits and things like that. I mean, as part of sports officiating, that was one of the requirements it was, if you're able to become an official. And then obviously it played into the stuff that, the class was asking us to do. And we brought those perspectives back and we actually talked about it. So, I mean, not only did we, officiate different sports and whatnot, but we also got to bring those experiences back and talk to each other. And I think that'd be a really cool thing to do. I like what Jason said, trying to do it at the high school level, especially in PE classes, to where it's for kids who are playing sports, not just a general PE, but it's something that they can actually do and then get something out of it. So at least learn how to act or how to treat officials. I always tell our officials, all of my players, that the officials are going to make mistakes. I make mistakes. You make mistakes. The thing is you want to treat these guys and these women with respect, because they're put in a tough spot. And it's a tough thing to do, is to be an official. So you be polite. It doesn't matter how angry it makes you. If it's something that I think that I need to go to bat for you, I'll go to bat for you. But at the same time, I understand that they're going to miss calls. I'm going to miss plays. Everybody's going to make mistakes. That's the human error to it. And, I think that we just need to do a good job from a coach's standpoint, from every aspect to educate our kids of how to act. I think that, it's hard to get the parents on board because, how much they have invested. But at the same time, that's on school districts or schools to punish people who take it too far, I hope.
So to me, one of the things, a hallmark of a good official is one that can have a dialogue with the coach over the course of a game. Not that it necessarily needs to be a running conversation, but at key moments, you need to have that. Charles, how important is that for an official, especially a young one, kind of getting their experience to be able to have those calm conversations in what can be a tense environment?
Well, as an official, I mean, I have to say I wasn't always willing to talk to a coach, because they're screaming and yelling. My thing is, during my pregame conference, I mean, I learned to say, if you want respect, you got to show respect. That means talk to me. Don't scream at me. If you're a coach, you got a question. Hey, I'll talk to you. But if you're screaming, and I'm pretty sure Riley, Chris, they know, I had them many times. If you're screaming at me, I'm just going to run by you. And if you say, hey, I got a question, I will stop and talk to you and say, hey, what you want, coach? So
I'm putting everybody's face on here because I want to see the different faces here. So go ahead.
Jarvis, I can't stop. He's just constantly screaming at me. So it's just, it's just one of those things like, hey. So I'm like, okay, and I'll stop and say, what do you want? He goes,
I think you're getting me confused with Blair.
Oh, okay, Blair. Okay, there you go. But it's one of those ones where it's like they're trying to ask you a question when the play's going on, and you're like, hang on. In your mind, you're thinking, I got you, coach. I got you. Just hang on. Let the play. And then something happens, and they'd be like, well, you missed a call. It's like, well, I'm sitting here trying to answer your question at the wrong time. And so you just got to have a dialogue. You can't take anything for granted. I mean, you can't take it personal. I mean, they have a job to do. They're trying to get a call. They're trying to get their team in the best position to win. And as an official, you just got to say, hey, coach, I hear you. I'll work harder for you. I'm out here working. I might have missed it, coach. It's my fault. You just got to own up to it. And I learned it a long time ago. It's like, yeah, coach, I missed it, but I got you.
Are there some coaches, and I'm not accusing anybody on this case, but are there some coaches that going into their gym, they're going to complain about every single call, hoping that they can get you to give one or two their way?
Yeah. There's a few, but at the beginning of the game, I mean, it's just one of those things. And a lot of officials know who guys are because we've seen them so many. We did them so many times, but at the same time, they know us. Mm-hmm. So they know it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna try, but it might not work. I mean, I don't, get mad at a coach for trying to get a call. I mean, that's just like in baseball. You'll hear a coach sometimes say, "Oh, that looked kind of close." Well, I know what they mean. They want to call, but at the same time, it's like, "Oh, swing the bat." Yeah, that probably was a strike. So But sometimes I go to some of the coaches, and we don't have to, and I think coaches understand that. Our job is we work for the state. Once we put the uniform on, we don't have to talk to your kids and say, hey, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this. We just have to go out there and make the calls. That's for the coaches to coach. But if you see a lot of us officials, myself, I'll tell a kid, hey, keep your hands off. But, get set on your moving screens. You're moving. Then I'll go by and tell the coach, hey, I told such and such he's moving during the screens. You might want to say something. So that gives you a dialogue with the coach and say, hey, I already warned that player. So the next whistle that comes, the coach, I have had a few coaches say, hey, listen to him. Or I have had a few coaches say, well, they're not going to listen to me. They're not going to listen to you. So blow the whistle. So it kind of works. And so when you blow the whistle, the coach, I had a few coaches, I blew the whistle and the coach goes, what are you looking at me for? He told you, I told you. You don't want to listen, you'll be sitting over here. So it's just one of those ones where you have to pick your battles. You just can't go out there and blow the whistle all the time. And what I've learned is says, don't open up that can if you don't have the answer or you don't want to, have a bad game. Just try to talk to the coach and pre-officiate, pre-event what's going to happen, and if you go to a coach and say, hey, such and such is doing this, or, just anything, coach, they're in the lane too long. Or you tell a kid, I mean, some coaches, they hear me. I'm like, get out of the lane. I mean, I'll let the coach know, get out of the lane. I'm screaming at the kid like, okay, well, the next time I'll blow the whistle. And the coach would be like, I said, coach, I know you heard me. And he goes, Yeah, I heard you. So it's just one of those things where you have to pick your battle. If so it's basically we're out there coaching at the same time as the coaches. The kids are still young. So we're kind of want to officiate the game, but also the kids are learning the game also, especially at the freshman, junior high level. They're learning. High school is a little bit more intense. You got a little bit more to pay for, conference, district seeds. So, it's just one of those things where you got to pick your battles and own up to your mistakes. Because I have a lot of stories where coaches, they should be still chewing my rear out right now for some of the calls I made, but I'll just go over. Like for instance, a college coach blew a call, and he come out there screaming. And the first thing I looked at him, I said, "Coach, you're right. I blew that call. If you still want to continue to chew my butt, you can chew it." He goes, "You know what? Nope. You earned up to your mistakes. I'm fine with it." I said, "Coach, I'll do better." And he was happy with it. And this is college. I mean, these guys, they're more intense. And he told his players, "Hey, guys, I'm happy with this guy. Yeah, he blew the call, but he owned it to his mistakes. I wish you guys would do the same thing when you make mistakes." So it was a teaching moment. Even though I blew the call, he turned it into a teaching moment.
Mm-hmm. So, we're going to talk about technical fouls for coaches whose last name rhymed with Thriller. But first, we're going to take a brief commercial break. So I'm going to turn this over to Ray Halbrook. And Ray, we're going to go to our first break here.
Yeah, we'll go to our first break, and we will be right back.
What you guys do for Jefferson County sports, it doesn't go unnoticed by the coaches in all sports.
Yeah,
all sports. That. I have a lot of friends that are head, basketball coaches, and I've been, of course, around Jefferson County all my life and followed all kinds of sports even before I got into the coaching. So what you guys do to help promote it with the kids is unbelievable, and we appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
For you guys to take your time and what you do is awesome. Just awesome.
Yeah, well, we try, we work hard, and we think they deserve it. The kids deserve to be able to be seen, and if we can turn out kids in the community to better them, get them in college, and make them a better citizen, that's the key. We are back here, folks, and we are, you guys are on, just so you know. I know guys are just catching up. That's all good. No big deal, but I got to pay the bills here a little bit here, and appreciate that. Hey, he's back, Chris Schweigert over at the Venti Beauty Bar. You got a call for an appointment, 314-610-5523. That's Chris Schweigert over at the Venti Beauty Bar. Also, Tara James over at Coldwell Banker Gundaker. You can still be sold while sanitizing. Make sure you call Tara James, 573-535-8038. She's located at 502 South Truman in Festus, Missouri. And Primerica, our great friend over here, Justin Ford, is brand new. I think it's a brand new business for him. He just sent me this stuff over today. It says helping families become financially secure. Give Justin Ford a call, 636-789-8736, located out in Farmington. Appreciate all of our sponsors. And if you're interested in sponsoring with us, give us a call, 314-852-4398, or live stream stl@outlook.com. Sponsor with us. Right now, we've got the COVID-19 $25 special, so $25 a show. That's pretty doggone cheap. So get your business out there. And before we get out of here real quick, don't forget, if you're interested in getting our Roku channel, we had a couple of folks mention the Roku channel tonight, $5.99 a month. And this is how I take that back, $4.99 a month. I'm incorrect in saying that. Let me get that right. And if you're interested in checking it out, you need to go to videos.tkdssports.com. That's part of the TKDS Sports Network, and you can get on. I know that some of my good friends here that's actually on the show here. You guys, a couple of you guys are on the Roku channel yet?
Mm-hmm.
Riley is.
Yes.
And what's your thoughts about the Roku channel, my friend?
I'll tell you, it's very clear. It's just so smooth. Really no interruptions.
Yeah.
I think it's tremendous. If you have it, I think it'd be great to subscribe to it because, like I said, you can watch it on your big screen and it's just so smooth and clear. And that to me is a big difference. And the clarity of it and just how smooth it runs and looks and all together. So if you do, it's well worth the $4.99 a month, in my opinion. If you're, a grandparent or whatever from out of state and you want to watch, these sporting events or whatever it is, maybe a graduation or however, whatever Livestream STL does. You can subscribe for $4.99 and get it clear on your TV and right in front of you and not even have to leave your couch. So I think it's an awesome thing.
We're live right now on the Roku channel as we speak. I know Jeff Whitener's watching it, and we'll have more. Steve Rissler was talking about it earlier, and I know that this is just a good. It's a good investment if you've got interest in the Jefferson County and St. Louis County's sports scene, because that just kind of just gets overlooked. But we're trying to bring it back here and make it available to parents and grandparents and even students. So you'll see over here to my right here all the places that we're on, also Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and the Roku channel. So that's all I'm going to say about all that, and we're going to go to our next segment. Matt Schutte, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, and so here we are, segment 2. We've actually got a couple comments, couple questions regarding baseball that we're going to get to with Charles here shortly. But first, coaches, I wanted to just kind of get your side of it. So we heard Charles raise some really great points about being a referee and being an official in basketball. Obviously, I think you can extrapolate a lot of what he was saying to the relationship that all officials can have with coaches in virtually any sport at our level. But from your standpoint and the experience you guys have had, both as basketball coaches, but also Riley, you're a multi-sport coach. Jason, Chris, Zach, I believe all you guys have coached more than one sport. So talk a little bit about that and just like how you view that interaction, how important that is for you, and what your take is on it. Zach, let's start with you.
Well, I think for me personally, the biggest thing as a coach that I would like to see with an official is just the ability to communicate back and forth. Whether an official's telling me, no, coach, you're wrong, I didn't see it that way. Just first and foremost, just the ability to actually hold a conversation. I've been doing this 15 years, and whether it's football, basketball, baseball, and sometimes you just happen to get officials that they just don't want to talk to you at all. At least in my opinion, I don't care if they make a mistake. They make a mistake, that's fine, but at least just talk to me. And honestly, basketball, and I'll say this and give you a disclaimer, I've been an official once or twice for basketball. That's the hardest, most subjective sport, I think, to officiate. And so a lot of times, at least in my opinion, I'll talk and ask an official, hey, I didn't see anything. What happened? And so it's just one of those, I'm not trying to belittle what your call or what you made. I'm just kind of curious, what did you see in that situation? Because our vantage points are different. And I think even, and Charles can maybe explain it, I think maybe vantage points or what each official has to see in the different slides or how they define it. So what they're looking for isn't necessarily what we're looking for. And, but as long as there's a dialogue, it's okay.
Gotcha. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Well, I learned early in my career, it was a little harder to talk to refs. And now this is next year will be my 6th year, and I've learned how to approach them a different way too. Early in my career, you come all hot-headed, and I did it to Charles, I'm sure. And now I will, hey, Charles, I didn't see it that way. What did you see? Try to have that dialogue, try to talk to him more than you try to yell. And I really learned, can't yell across the court at him for sure. And, just some little
odds of agreement across the table.
Well, and And I don't know. I feel sometimes, a coach that's just in isn't going to be listened to as much as maybe a coach that's been around for a long time. And I don't know if that's how refs really are. I just feel like sometimes some coaches can talk a little different than other coaches can talk to them.
Well, and Riley, Chris, we're going to get your thoughts on this, but I'm going to dip back to Charles real quick. Charles, Jason just mentioned something that I think a lot of us see is that some coaches have probably earned a little flexibility, whereas maybe others don't have the time put in yet. Would you say, is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, it's true. Because I know, for instance, last year I had, I can't think his name, the new head coach from Northwest. I hate to call him out there, but there was an incident where I'm across the court underneath the basket, and it was in the Hillsborough tournament, and he thought he saw something different. Now I had, Mark Probst and the other head guy, I can't think of his name, they're watching, grading this, because they come out and watch. And it was a play underneath the basket, and no one touched his kid. So I'm running down the court. He's screaming, stomping his feet. You blew it. You blew it. So I just look at him, run down the court, and I'm across the court, and he's screaming at me. So I wait till there was a foul in the end, and I walk across the court, and I called him over. And I said, Coach, this is what you saw compared to what I saw. And I'm standing 2 feet from the play. I said, so, if you got a question, ask me. But don't ever scream at me again like that across the court. I said, because I probably could have gave you not one, but 2 technicals because you kept screaming at me and you would have been done. I said, plus it's your first year, Coach. I'm going to give you a little advice. If you got a question or you disagree, do not scream. Wait till there's a timeout or politely call the guy over and say, hey, what'd you see? This is what I see. I mean, you might not agree what the official says, but give him a chance to explain. You might say, oh, okay, well, I didn't see it that way. Well, you didn't see it that way. You're going to agree to disagree, but at the same time, you don't want to come off, and I told him, it's your first year. You don't want to get a reputation as screaming and not getting along with officials, because the first thing out of your mouth, they're either going to give you a technical or they're just going to ignore you altogether, because that's not the way to handle it. And long story short, after the game, Mark Probst, they came up and said, you handled that real professionally because you could have gave him a technical. But since you've been doing it, a long time, and this guy's a new coach, you kind of talk to him and let him know. I said, yeah, I explained to him when he goes, that's the good officiating, because, you're teaching a young coach and we know he wants to win and we can see it, but you did a great job. So I think like Chris, like you said, he's been doing it a while. Yeah, he might scream a little bit, but here you go. Yeah, I gave Chris a technical, but Chris knew. Chris knew why. Chris knew why he got it, and everybody knew. But during the game, Chris was, he was screaming. And he was talking to me, but he was screaming, and I kind of like looked at him a few times, like, okay, I hear you. But I think he was. Some coaches get a technical out of frustration, not so much as the officials do. Sometimes they get it to try to spark their team. Mm-hmm. Some coaches do that. It's like, look, guys, I'm fighting for you. I got a technical now. Help me fight with me or something like that. But it just, I can pretty much let some coaches scream because I, been doing it quite a while and it goes to baseball. But when you say magic words, you kind of know what they say, and it'd be like, what? And you turn around, it's like, no, you didn't say that, did you? So it's like, it's kind of one of those ones you go over and say, Coach, okay, I had enough, Coach. You had your say, I had my say. Let's just coach you. And then, they get mad and you just have to handle it. And some coaches respect an official doing it. Not all, but some do.
Well, and that's what I like about Charles, because he'll come tell you, hey, Jarvis, I've had enough. And then I know if I don't shut up, I'm going to get my technical. So, I wish more would do it like that, because I've gotten a technical. I hadn't said nothing to a guy all game, he comes by. I think he missed a call. I say something. I get teed up right off the bat. I'm like, man, I ain't even said nothing all game. I'm just saying, so I do like that Charles, and there's many of them. Rick, you can talk to him. There's a lot of them that'll talk to you if you approach them the correct way.
Yeah, Charles, that makes me want to ask you this question here. When you get on a either 2-3 man crew, and the situation that Coach Jarvis brought up, from an official perspective, obviously everybody's different and everybody's subjective in how they want to call the game. Do you guys ever get together before and say, hey, I want to call it this way. This guy wants to call it that way. I'm just curious from a coaching perspective, is that something that officials get together and say, hey, let's call it tight today. Let's let them play. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we do. We get together, like we have pregame. We get together and we'll be like, if you're in the C, let's let the trail guy, the guy underneath the basket, we call it the lead or the trail, the lead guy. If it's coming to him, let him get the charge. But if the C, you slide down, it's his position. If you slide down, if you got it, hey, you might be a second late, but call it, because you got to help out. So, and then I could be underneath the basket. I could miss it. I mean, just the angle you got. So that's where 3-man comes into more the angles. And we got areas to cover, but we also talk about if you see it, you might overstep my area coverage, but call it, and just don't be afraid to say, hey, coach. And the coach goes, well, the guy underneath the basket, he was right there. Okay, I'll come out and talk to you and say, hey, coach, I had 4 guys in front of me. I couldn't see it, but the guy behind, had a better angle. So, it's just – and people know kids are bigger, they're faster, and they're stronger. So it's hard to sometimes – coach is like, did you see that? Coach, I was looking underneath the basket. I had a coach on me about – moving screen at the top of the key, and I'm standing there at the basket watching the big man. I'm thinking, coach, I can't watch the top of the key if I'm watching the big man. So if you want me to do that, I'll do that. But when your big man gets an elbow to the mouth or something, then you're going to be like, hey, did you see that? Well, you can't have it both ways. If you want me to do this, do that. And that's where you got to talk to the coach like, hey, there's 2 other guys out there. The guy underneath the basket mainly has the paint. I let the other guys out the top do that. But on hindsight, 3-man, we do talk about it before the game, which area to cover. Yes, get the hand checks early. Don't wait to the fourth quarter and you start calling hand check. Don't do that because now you're like
all the coaches are
all the coaches are on. You're like, you didn't call that the first 3 quarters. Why? And they have a legitimate right because I do. One of the biggest thing I like doing is traveling to different areas to see different teams. Great. Because I go down every year for Charleston, do that big tournament they have down there, and you do see above rim play more than you see in Jefferson County. It's just a fact. You got like Cape Central, you got Sykeston, you got Charleston. Those guys play mainly above the rim, and they're a lot faster, a lot quicker, and yes, they do grab a little bit, they follow a little bit, but see. Where I think Coach Minner down in Charleston likes us to come down and do this tournament is because, like Charleston, they went to the championship, to play for the title. Well, we kind of call up here, we're all trying to get on the same page, like call. That's what they all, they had a big old meeting with the guys down south and us. We're all trying to get the call consistent, the same, because everybody knows down south, for years where they don't call anything. You get beat up, but I think Misha's doing a great job of going down there with Probst and those guys and Charlie Buck. They're getting on those guys and say, hey, coaches want more fouls. They want more fouls. Blow it. And that's when Coach Farmer for Charleston, he retired now, but he told us this year, he goes, you know what? I hate when you guys come down here because you call a lot of fouls. And, he goes, but I watched the tapes over years. He goes, but they are fouls. And our guys got to adjust because if we start getting into sectionals and districts and everything, we're playing. Most of the officials we get are guys from up north that call it the same way you do. And he goes, so that's where I think we do talk. We do try to be consistent. A lot of us, you guys, some of your coaches, Miller and Jarvis, there's a few of us have worked together so much. We know how to call the game. We don't have, we get in before a pregame, we'll go, okay, let's just call how we see it. We all work together. We know each other. Because I can work with us, Rick Bowen, and he can make a call. I don't have to question, was that a foul or what he see? Rick's been doing it for years. I just let him call his game. And I even said, hey, I missed that call. And I mean, you just got to own up to it. If a coach gets on you, own up to it. So,
Chris, I think out of this group of coaches, and this is not a shot at you at all, but out of this group of coaches, you probably coached the broadest swath. You've covered more of the state maybe than some of the other guys with the various head coaching stops. Can you talk a little bit about what Charles was saying, where you're seeing like the officiating down south because of the style of play is a little different than what you run into in Jefferson County?
I think you hit the nail on the head, Charles. I mean, the game, I grew up in Southeast Missouri and coached down there for a few years. I've been in Northern Missouri. Coach Davis always says that I've probably been in more gyms than him, and he's old, so I don't know if that's a compliment or not. But the game is officiated different. I know down south you can go into, especially one of those small gyms. I don't really want to call any gym out down south, and you can get practically mugged. And if you're used to playing in situations like that where you're allowed to play a certain way, and let's say, and I've seen it throughout the years where these teams come out of certain areas where the game's officiated differently, and then they move on in the state tournament, they're getting different officials and different officiating than what they're used to at that level. And sometimes it takes them out of their game. I mean, because let's just say I've watched Charleston come out of Southeast Missouri for many years and make runs at the Final Four. They get pretty deep or playing in the state championship game, and they're not allowed to play a certain way where they're able to, kind of bump you a little bit and get their hands on you. And they're used to playing like that. Not saying they're playing out, outside the rules, but it's what they're allowed to do. There's several other teams. Harrisburg, which is up north of Columbia, they'll play a very aggressive style that they're used to being able to play. And then whenever they make a run, sometimes they get some officials who come out of Northwest Missouri, and the game is called pretty much where you look at somebody the wrong way, it's a foul. And, it is tough. It's tough when you're playing in different areas where the game is officiated different, but it's really interesting to see how teams adjust to that and, just really focus on just doing the things they're supposed to be right.
Excuse me. And Riley, before we switch gears, I got a couple good baseball, softball questions on here for Charles. But before we do that, just wanted to get your perspective on that relationship, that dynamic between the coach and the referee on the court during the game.
I've been doing this 14 years here in Jefferson County, and I've learned a lot of patience. And then I'll tell you, one official told me that about 3 years ago. He said, Coach, if you don't learn how to be patient, you're never going to make it in this field. And that kind of hit home a little bit because, and I'm a high strung person and Charles will probably admit to that. I'm very high strung on the sidelines, but I'll tell you, a lot of my kids feed off of that. And I'll say that along the lines of that. Is it a bad thing? No. Is it a good thing? Maybe not either. I don't know. But, the relationship that I've built over the time I've been here has changed a lot in the last 3 years. And that's because of that one word that I've kind of talked about is patience. But, these officials are all human. Just like I'm a human, I'm going to make the wrong call, wrong play call or whatever. A kid's going to make a mistake on the floor. I mean, they're just all human. We're going to make mistakes. And, I've come to try to come to grasp with that. Is it an easy thing to swallow? No. But, at the same time, I think I've learned a lot in the last few years, and I hope Charles will kind of contest to that. I had him a couple times this year, and I think I've just kind of grown to be a little bit more my perspective has gotten bigger when it comes to officials because, it is such a dying breed out there. I mean, Charles said it earlier, 55 years old is the average age for officials. And, If we don't calm down as coaches, as parents, even as athletes, if we do not calm it down, high school sports is going to go away completely. And that's a sad situation, and so I just try to understand that. But the most important thing, and Zach and Coach Jarvis both hit on it, just communication is important. And I think that if along the lines of anything you do, if you don't communicate amongst each other, it's just not going to go very well. And so I think if I can give it to any official out there, if you can just communicate with each other and with the coaches, I think that goes a long way. And to me, that's kind of where I look at it as.
All right, we're not going to get to the question with softball and baseball just yet, but we are going to get to those. First, I'm going to send it back over to our good friend Ray Halbrook, and he's going to break for commercial, I believe, for a moment, and we'll come right back. Gentlemen, if you can stick with us for one more segment.
Absolutely. We will be right back.
Ray, and I'll say real quick, I really admire what you guys do with this. I think everybody who's ever tuned into one of these, whether it's a Legion game, whether it's a high school baseball game, with basketball, football, whatever it is, I've heard nothing but tremendous feedback about Livestream STL and what you guys do and the quality of production, things like that. I would really encourage anybody who's involved in athletics throughout the county, really anywhere in the metro area, anybody who's interested in sponsoring activities to get on board and get involved with this. I think it's added a ton to what we do here. It's added a ton to the program. You guys are a class act. You're committed to doing things the right way, and we really appreciate that.
And thanks so much for being back. And the guys are cutting up and having a good old time over here. I see all of them. This is a good group here, guys. I'm just gonna say we had a really good show so far. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about our sponsors tonight. Sponsors like Chris Schweigert over at the Venti Beauty Bar, Salon, and Med Spa. Call for an appointment, 314-610-5523. I know Chris is chomping at the bit to get back into the Venti Beauty Bar. Should be ready to go here probably this weekend, probably first of next week at the very latest. So give him a call, 314-610-5523. That's Chris Schweigert. Tara James over at Coldwell Banker Gundaker. You can still be sold while sanitizing. Give Tara James a call, 573-535-8038, located at 502 South Truman in Festus, Missouri. Give Tara James a call. Also, Justin Ford over at Primerica, helping families become financially secure. Give Justin Ford a call, 636-789-8736. And if you're interested in sponsoring with us, again, here's our number again, 314-852-4398, or you can email us at livestreamstl@outlook.com. Sponsor with us, $25 for the COVID-19 special right now, and we're running that until we start, hopefully, do I dare say it, American Legion Baseball, hopefully here sometime in the next coming weeks. And before I forget, don't forget to jump on our Roku channel. If you're interested in getting a hold of our Roku channel, just access videos.tkdssports.com. That will take you to the TKDS Sports Network and give you a chance to open up a subscription for our Roku channel, which is $4.99 a month. All right, guys, we're going to jump right back with you guys here. And Matt, what we got going on now?
Yeah, we got a couple comments on the Facebook channel. So our friend of the show, Jeff Whitener, chimed in. And Charles, this one I guess is for you. It says there's a special relationship between catchers and home plate umpires. I'd like to know if Charles can mention some of the memorable catchers he's worked with over the years and some of the funny things that have happened back there behind the plate. So would you agree with that? There's a relationship there with catchers and umps?
Yes, there is. I mean, when I come on the field as an umpire, the first thing I try to do is tell the umpire, the catcher, hey, it's just me and you back here. You know, if your coach asks the question if there's a ball or strike, please, just tell him it's outside, inside. I said that way it'll keep him from getting, in trouble, and it'll help me. So basically I'll tell the catcher three things. Number one is I don't want to get hit. That's the main thing. Don't get hit. You do a good job, don't hit. Number 2 is if you think it's on the outside corner, hold it there. Let me see it. Almost like a frame job. Just hold it there. Let me see it. And 2, don't stand up in the strike zone. If you think it's a high pitch, don't stand up because it's going to be a ball. And if you get a good coach, like Zach Bone, he caught, he was a catcher. And he'll see his catcher pop up on a high strike. And the first thing I'll look at Zach and I'll point to the catcher, like he needs to stay down. And Zach will he'll look at him. He'll go, hey, stay down. The umpire can't see it. So it's almost like basketball. You got to rapport with the coach. You talk to the coach a little bit, but mainly coaches. And Riley, if you're a softball, baseball coach, from the side view, it looks like a strike. I don't care if it could be outside, but for them, it's knee high. And they're like, oh, man, that was good. And the catcher, and I told the catcher, tell your coach where that was at. And so you'd be ready to pour, the catcher goes, he'll point, coach, it was outside. Coach, it was inside. I said, go over and tell your coach where your pitcher's pitching the ball at, and that way, and it has worked. And I'll tell the catcher, thanks, or if I see a guy out there balking out and tell him my secret sometimes, but you don't want to penalize a kid, like you say, a freshman kid or a JV kid that's never pitched before. Coaches see it. The kid can barely pitch, get the ball over. You just want to get the game moving, both coaches, and you'll tell the catcher, hey, go out there and tell your pitcher to pause. Go out there and tell him to do it. So you're relaying a message, and your catcher, and you tell the catcher thank you because, no one wants to be balking runners in, but there's a few memorable catchers that, that been great for me. I still see a few of them now, and we talk. I try to get them to do baseball, and some of them like, yeah, maybe. And I think there's 2 or 3 kids in Farmington that became umpires. I don't know if they're still doing it, but they have worked for me in the summer, and I knew that they were going to be good. And they were good. I had a few coaches that say these guys are going to be good umpires to stay with it because they played a game and they seen their potential. Like I said, why you become an umpire? One guy goes, and a few of them goes, well, I knew I wasn't going to play major baseball or go play D1 college or anything like that. So I just wanted to be an umpire and I want to stay, close to the game. And I was kind of happy to hear them. And that's what we preach. It's like you stay involved. You're not going to play at the next level. So become an umpire. You can still give back to the game. You can still make a little money on the side of doing it. You might get screamed at, but at the end of the day, you'd be like, hey, got paid to get screamed at, It's just one of those things. You're not going to make everybody happy. You got to understand that.
And there's Josh Stratton chimed in as well, and he said, I officiated baseball for 2 years, and it almost never failed. The better coach team had the quieter coaches. Guys worried about my strike zone were not always typically good coaches. There's some truth to that?
Well, you have some good coaches, some bad coaches. It's just one of those things, Coaches are going to be coaches. And you're like Riley said, we're all human. We make mistakes, and I said it before, they're trying to get a call. But there's, everybody knows in baseball, if you coach, the one rule, you don't argue balls and strikes. That's just it. It's a judgment call. People understand just like basketball, it's a judgment call. You're there. It's a judgment call. It's your judgment, what you see. Coaches may not see it that way, but hey, a banger at the home plate. You're standing over the plate watching the kid get tagged out, and the coach is like, oh, you were safe. Well, coach, I'm standing right on top of the plate. I could have scored myself. The kid was out. But in hindsight, the coach is trying to see if you messed up. You never know. I have never changed my call, but I have seen a play where a guy at first base went and overruled the home plate umpire on a play at home plate. So, and I'm thinking there, wow, well, he's not my partner. So, you have to talk about it, but, I think, and the guy, I'm thinking the guy's been doing it a few years too. And I'm thinking, you can't change that. And I'm thinking, man, you can't change that call, but he did. And I'm thinking, okay, well,
Is it? You do baseball and softball, correct?
Yes.
Harder to call balls and strikes for softball or baseball? Like softball, I'm thinking of like one of these flamethrowers. It seems like in the county we've always got a couple of them in Jefferson County. I can think for St. Pius, for example, just knowing them, AJ Agers can really bring the heat and throw fast. Is it tougher to call balls and strikes there, or with the longer distance with baseball?
Softball's easier.
Oh,
To me, softball's it's if you got two good pitchers, which like the Nichols girl, and then you had the Henderhan girl. I did that matchup with them. It was just like a day in the park. It was easy. They both, they're going to be throwing strikes. So if you know the pitcher and you've seen them before, it's going to be easy. You can't make it hard on yourself. You can't guess. That's one of the things. They're once you develop your strike zone, you have to stay with it. You can't first inning. If you just for example, if you calling the ball at the ankles in the first inning, okay, come the ninth inning when it's crunch time, you can't call the ball. You've been calling it a strike for the last 7 innings, so now you can't change. And some coaches will look at you, well, their batter, and they'll be like, hey, he's been calling that pitch for the first 5 innings. Are you going to swing the bat? Here it is, the 6th inning. So, or you change your strike zone. And the coach goes, well, you ain't called that for 4 innings. Now you're going to start to call it. You want to go home? They say stuff and just like, well, yeah, you ask your partner out there, and hey, how's my strike zone? If you've got a good partner and you can take criticism, and that's the main thing about any sport. If you got a veteran official, ask them. If you can't take criticism to get better, you shouldn't be doing this. Because I'm pretty sure Chris he coached with Alan Davis on the bench. I mean, I'm pretty sure Alan told you, a few things, what you're doing wrong, So I went to a few camps, and these guys, I've worked for 3 or 4 more major league umpires. One did the gold medal game in the Olympics. And so these guys have been there, they've done it. So if me and an official think, oh, I've been doing this 16 years, I don't need to listen to you, you're wrong. You will never get it. You will never be good. I don't care how many games, how many championships you did, you always can improve your game. Just the little things. I mean, I find myself sometimes during the game, I move my head with the strike, with the pitch. And I have to take a minute and go, keep your head still. Or my partner out there goes, hey, you moved your head a little bit. Keep it still. Oh, okay. So you have to listen for anybody who wants to be an umpire or an official. You have to take criticism and just roll with it. You can't. I mean, that's in your job itself. Somebody might see you do your job wrong. I mean, I'm pretty sure these guys are teachers. I'm pretty sure a principal might say something to her, the boss, like, hey, you need to do this better. And you're going to tell your principal, oh, no, I've been doing this for a certain amount of years. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, okay, well.
There's only one guy in this group I can think of that was probably doing
that much. Come on, Jarvis.
Yeah, it's not me. I think Miller's been at more places than me, maybe.
Man. Hey, to answer Charles a little bit though, it's funny because Coach Davis, he still does it. He still tells me all the things I'm doing wrong. He probably told me. I think I probably got a text from already if he's been even watching the show. And then that game that you called, that unfortunately I got a technical foul because I was being awfully vocal. He was telling me pretty much during the game the things I was doing wrong is. He, was calling out our plays and knew exactly what we were running. So, yeah, he's told me a few times, quite recently on the things I've been doing wrong.
Well, Davis he's gotten on to me. I mean, I've been doing Alan Davis for a long time. He knows my style. I know what he says. Sometimes he might just be picking at me. I mean, I caught a 3 seconds on this kid, and the next game, it was in the tournament, this past Christmas tournament. The next game, he saw me. He goes, hey, what was that 3 seconds about? I said, well, Coach, if you would have brought me to the Soto, you could have taught me how to count to 5. I mean, I missed that. And he just, so it was a joke. It's a joke between, everybody knows the joke with DeSoto, but it was just a joke. So you got to take it for what it was. He always pulls my leg. He tries to, to get at me. And during the game, I'll get at him. And I'm like, Coach, if you would have called the right play, you would have scored, or something like that. So you got to have fun out there too. My thing is when I go onto the court, I tried to have fun. I talk to the kids. If any of you coaches probably saw me, I talk to the kids. I constantly try to have a rapport with the kids, because if you have a rapport with the kids, you can pretty much say, hey, such and such, you can't do that, or I'm gonna call a foul. Or if you tell them, some of them be like, oh, yes, sir, thank you. Or some of them are appreciative of what you tell them, because a lot of the kids play multiple sports. Some play baseball as well as basketball. So the kids pretty much will know me in my demeanor, because I see them so much in basketball and in baseball. So I have a rapport with them, and and some of them be like, "Hey, are you doing baseball this year?" Because I do have fun out there, and it's all about having fun with the kids. Because at the end of the day, somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. But did you have fun? Did you? And I tell myself, did I try to do my best? Did I give my best to both teams? Because if I don't feel I did a good job, then I have to work on a few things. And that's where I hold myself accountable, as trying to be the best official I can, because I don't change the way I call a basketball game or baseball. I mean, I have some guys who watch me, even as signers or something, they said, hey, you look like you're having too much fun out there. Are you taking the game serious? And I'm like, well, if you're not out here having fun as you're doing it, then what's the point? You can be serious, but you got to have fun. You can't go out there with an attitude and chip on your shoulder every single night, because some coaches told me, he goes, man, it looked like you were mad when you came out here. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. No, I was just thinking about something. So coaches see it, parents see it, players see it. You just got to have a smile on your face when you might not feel like being out there. Because believe me, sometimes I'm so tired, because come into January, February, the coaches know it's a long basketball season. You are tired. Players are tired. And you just got to do it. You signed up to be an official. So quit, hey, don't take the game. I mean, that's my point. If you don't want to do it, don't take the game. If you don't want to give you 100%. And that's where it is.
We had Zach McVey had a good question for you earlier, just about like the pregame meetings, and I think one of our other coaches had a question as well. Riley, was that you?
Yeah, one of the questions I had, and I've seen a lot of the times this year, a lot of close games at the end of the games. As an official, if it's a 1-point ball game or a 2-point ball game at the end, I mean, is a foul have to be called? Has to be blatant foul, or do you kind of let it play out as it plays out? As an official, how do you handle that situation?
Well, you get together at half court, like you'll see, you guys call a timeout. Some coaches will get together and say, hey, make sure it's a foul. Don't second guess. If you're going to call a foul, call it. But you better be sure, like if it's a travel, it's a walk, it's a foul. If you call it, make sure. And I mean, because I tell people, some people are like, oh, or, I hear out that, well, they didn't want us to win, or they refer to the team. My thing is like this. I don't care who wins. A foul's a foul. A walk's a walk, a travel. And some coaches, I've been in those 1 or 2 point games with about 5 seconds. A kid they'll travel. And I've seen a few coaches be like, yeah, you did. You traveled. And there's nothing that a coach can say when you call it, is because they were like, especially right out in the open, because most of the time it's a one-on-one situation. A kid's going to do one-on-one for about 5 seconds, but their best shooter's going to get the ball. So you got to really watch. And far as when you got 3 officials, you have who's got the ball, who's got the clock. And if you're underneath, watch for the push and the shoving on the rebounds or whatever. So you kind of know. You talk about that in your huddle, because when the teams call a timeout, you're taking the timeout to get everything lined up, so there's no second guessing on what you got. You know, so and that's the question. I mean, I call it the way I see it. I mean, I start out calling a foul, it's going to be a foul. I mean, you might not like it, but it's a foul. And I tell guys all the time, hey, you know, and a lot of guys I work with are pretty good at that. I mean, they'll be like, hey, it's a foul. Why was a guy, you know, we'll be like, after the game, we're like, why did the coach put that kid on him? Or why, did, you know, or why we look at it too. It's like, man, you know, I don't know. The kid down low, he was dumping down low. He's 6'6", the other guy's 6'2" or 6 foot. You know, we look at that too. It's just one of those things where at the end of the game, we're like, man, you know, so we take at the end of the game. I think I like the better when it's a close game. That's when you really get dialed in more so. I mean, everybody knows when you're losing by 40 or 50, it's hard to stay focused in the game because the team who's losing by 40 or 50, they just want it over. And then that's when you go into protection mode. I do, because you can't stop the clock and go, okay, forfeit, you lose by 50, let's go home. No, but you also can't tell the team that's winning by 50 who doesn't put all their subs in, and you look at the guy, maybe the 13th guy on the bench, it probably wouldn't even make any other team, or, you know, probably that's the only time he gets in the game. You can't tell that kid, don't shoot the ball. He practiced just as hard as the other starting five. So you have to actually say, hey, they're going to play. I mean, the other coach, you got to respect that. Hey, he put his bench in. Now, hey, you know, they practice just like you. I can't tell that coach, hey, don't score. You know what I mean? Coaches do pass the ball 5 times and look for a layup. So I respect they do that, but you can't tell a kid who's got a full layup not to shoot. Mm-hmm. So, but then you got to protect that kid, because the kid who's losing by 50, he's going to foul him off a hard. Because, you know, they're mad. You know, they're getting embarrassed. So as an official, you have to actually be on guard for rough play. And, you know, we'll call, you know, so that's where you, as an official, you got to really be an official.
We got a couple other questions, actually. Coach Jarvis, I think you've got one teed up for Charles.
Yeah, one of the hardest calls for me as a coach is the block or charge. As an official, is that one of the ones that's hard to call, or the one that you may get the most static about?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a judgment call, but you know, your kid can be in the hardest call when the kid's dribbling the ball and your kid's in a guarded position. Now he can move, but if he's squared up in a guarded position, he has the right to move and guard you. But if the kid can't run him over. But when you're set, I mean, and the kid plows over him, it's no, you know, you get some no-brainers. But if it's one of those where it could be questionable, it's a banger, and it's one of those ones where it could have been a block. But at the same time, as an official, you got to sell the call. You know, you got to come out and really sell the call. If you're going to come out, if there's a banger, you come out automatically, a block, sell it. It's a block. And you just got to, in your mind, the coach goes, what happened? Well, coach, he wasn't set. You know, coach might think other words, but coach, in my judgment, he wasn't set. Or my opinion, he wasn't set. You know, just from your angle. So that is the hardest call. I don't care what level, college, you know, it's a hard call, because some guys said, well, I watch to see if he hit him in the chest first, or vice versa. Well, if the guy lowers his shoulder, hits him in the chest, that's a no-brainer. But usually simultaneous, if they get there,
it's the bang ones that are the one. I mean, I won a game on one.
Yeah,
and it was called a charge, and we won because of it. And it's just one of those things that happen. I just wondered how hard those, because I mean, to me, I think it's the hardest one to call.
It's the hardest. I mean, you can, and like I have had some coaches, well, I'm going to watch the tape and see it. Well, you know, I might have missed it, but at the time, in real time, it's what you got, you know, and that's one of those instant replay junks that I hate in sports nowadays. You're taking the integrity of the game away. So it's on certain things. I mean, I think certain things can let go until the playoffs in Major League Baseball, or now college D1 is going to instant replay. So, but that's your question. It's the hardest, Jarvis.
I know Zach has a couple of questions as well. So, Zach, we'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Question I have, or at least one of them is, do you think, is there an intentional or maybe unintentional, when you guys go and officiate guard play versus post play, and then boys versus girls? And I'll be selfish here when I ask this question, because whether it was, a few years back with Holly Forbes, who's now playing up at Robert Morris, or whether it's the team this year that, we go 6'2", 6'1", 6 foot, it always comes across like, man, we just get post play. If you're on offense, we always feel, and this is probably other teams, we feel that we never get foul calls, like we have to go through contact. But if we're on the defensive side of things, man, we get touch fouls. While guard play, man, they can really rough each other up, and the officials will let that go. But man, when it gets in that bottom third, there's just they don't let as much physical play. Do you notice things like that, or am I dreaming here?
So basically, you're saying at the top, when they get in the paint, we might call it a little tighter.
Well, in terms of physicality of play, like we'll let the guards play a little bit more than bang around a little bit more than the post play. And then do you think there's a difference in how officials will officiate girls versus boys in terms of letting things go, letting it be more physical?
Yeah. The difference between girls and boys, they do kind of, officiate a little different. But as far as, I can't speak for the other officials, but me, if it's, like I said, we come out and call hand checks, okay, well, I'm going to call it at the top. If it's like, if the ball comes into the post, I tell the post guys, hey, I'm going to let you put your elbow bent, but as soon as the guy gets the ball, you got to put your hands off. You got to hold your hands out. So, and it works whether both teams on offense. If your girl has got a forearm, okay, when the girl gets the ball, then you got to guard. And then if she goes on the other end, same thing. She's going to have your forearm. And then when she gets the ball, when you get the ball, she's going to put her hands out. Now it's going to be a foul. And that's the way I call it. And certain officials, everybody used to say Alan Davis had his group of officials when he was at DeSoto. And what it was is, even before the game, our pregame, we will tell the coaches, hey, we're going to let the big men play. But if one gets an advantage by extending their arm out or something like that, if one gets an advantage, we're going to call it. And I think Alan Davis knew that, because certain officials, we will tell them, hey, we're going to let you guys play. I mean, if you got 2 6'6" guys and they're pretty good, you want them to play ball. But if one starts pushing, getting the hands and getting an advantage, more so like shoving off or anything, we might warn them and say, hey guys, you can't, knock it off, blah, blah, blah. But then you got to start calling fouls because one gets an advantage. But at the top, I'm more so if the hand checks, or if you're impeding the guy's process, then you got to call it. So people always get mad where if the guy's dribbling side to side or girls dribbling side to side and the person is burning on them, okay, well, they're dribbling side to side. And they're kind of touching off, putting on, touching off. You can say, hey, and they're not really guiding them or holding them. They're just touching them. You kind of let that go, because you want, in my opinion, you want kids to play basketball. You want the game to go. You want to try to establish a flow, and you can talk to the kids. You can go over and talk to the coach on timeout or something and say, hey, tell your kids, get their hands off. Blah, blah, kids, you can't do that. And that's where, like I say, preventive officiating. But far as me, like I said, I always call it, where it's girls game or boys game, it's just equal. I call it equal. It doesn't matter. They're both physical because, girls can be mean. So, that. Girls can be mean. So, it doesn't matter. I have seen some mean girls, and it's just, you got to call it. I mean, it doesn't matter, boys, girls. You just got to go out there and say, basketball is basketball. These are the rules. And there's no set rules for girls, no set rules for boys. It's not. The game is basketball. These are the rules Misha sets forth. And if that's the case, I would get 6 rule books, one, set for boys, one set for girls. But I don't. I have, just the rule books, basketball for the season. So that's your question. I mean, you might see, because, you see a few guys over and over and over. I mean, if you go to a boys game or a girls game, it's called a little different here and there, but,
Well, I know why Zach asked the question, because him and Riley teach their girls to be mean. So that's exactly why. He wanted to know if there was need to be telling them different right now.
Yeah, you got the 2 coaches. Yeah, I know their girls are mean. I mean, like, oh, come on. Jarvis used to teach his JV girls at Crystal. They were a little mean. I don't know how he's acted now. He's on the boys' side.
That was all Ken Jones, man. That wasn't me. That's all Ken Jones.
Yeah.
Does the speed of the game change that too, though? I mean, the difference between the speed and the boys and the girls' side.
Yes.
Because I think the biggest difference is speed.
The speed's a lot different. So it's kind of hard if you get. I have seen some guys. They said, "Man, like for me, instance, I mean, I can do 3 girls games during the week, and then on that Friday night, you might get a boys game. Well, the first 3 nights, you're in that girl mode a little bit. You've seen the girls, the pace and whatever. Then you get to the boys. The first time a fast break, you're like way behind. You're at half court and they're laying it up. You're like, yeah, the game is a little bit faster. So you have to realize boys are a little faster. Girls are, but you got some girls that can get up and down that court now. I mean, better than the boys, better than the boys, so you just got to know that the boys are going to be a little faster. So, girls, they listen to you more than the boys, but,
I learned that in coaching.
Well, you can talk to a girl. You can pretty much on the floor, you can tell a girl, hey, some you can, some you can't. Some girls got attitudes, man. I mean, like, hey, you can't tell me nothing. I'm like, okay, but
a T. No,
ain't no T's here. No.
We're good.
I disagree.
That's only Miller.
I know about the T here.
A couple more questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Charles, I had one for you. You didn't officiate this particular game, but Riley and I called it with Ray, and Chris was coaching in it in Jason's gym, and that was St. Pius X in Steelville, that regional championship game that came down to the last moment. Did you see that game or see the end of that game?
You mean the last shot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think? Riley and I think we both said immediately, and Ray, I know you chimed in on the broadcast. We all thought the shot was no good. So walk us through from an official's perspective. What is that conversation at midcourt that the 2 officials are having? But beyond asking Coach Miller to please back up.
Well, you first you got to establish, like during the timeout, it's always, unless something happens where the ball swings a certain way. That's why it based on who's got the table side facing the table. He usually has the ball. That way the clock can see him, and he can see, the clock can see, he can see the ball, and you can wave it off. And then you got the guy underneath the basket watching for any rough play, and the other guy on the off ball. But if the guy on the baseline rotates, then it flips around. So then the guy, who was away from the clock doesn't have the shot no more. So it's kind of hard, but yeah, I think they got it right. I watched the tape several times. They got it right. And the bad thing about that is, I think a few gyms now are going to, I know it's a little money, but they're going to the red triangle around the scoreboard.
The scoreboard. Okay.
Yeah, because it's hard because if you got an older scoreboard, even though it might say 0, you have that split tenths of a second before the horn goes off. So that's where I think schools or Mesa or whoever needs to get involved or talk about it. Hey, we need to upgrade these scoreboards or I think somehow we can all work together where we can get everybody maybe a triangle, maybe a little red light above the baskets where everybody can see it, because like you said, you have that split second, where it says 0, because you can say, oh, it was 0 on the clock. Well, I didn't hear the horn. For one, you're not looking as an official. You're not staring at the scoreboard and the guy shooting the basketball. You're just not doing that. You're kind of listening to the horn as he either has the ball in his hand or the ball or is released. Because if you're looking at the scoreboard, say the guy got the ball in his hand, he gets fouled. Okay, well, you don't call it because you're looking at the scoreboard. So now you got another argument from the coach. So I think we need to think about that with a red light or the triangle, because it's hard. That's probably going to be one of the hardest plays besides the charge to decide. Did he release it? Did he not release it? So without hearing the horn, you got to go with what you saw or what you didn't hear.
Well, Miller says they got it right.
That horn.
I got video. I got evidence, picture proof of it. So you can tell anybody who wants to see it. I mean, we'll send it. We'll put it out there. It was for sure in his hand. Clock's at 0. And you know what? There's no instant replay. And those guys, matter of fact, I mean, unbiasedly, they did a great job of doing that at the end.
You got to come together. That's just like baseball, where, everybody knows in a 2-man crew, it's hard with baseball, especially if there are multiple runners on you. It's play at first. As the home plate umpire, you got to actually kind of watch the guy at first, tag the first, pull the foot. And I've been in a few situations where I call the guy out from my angle because I'm in the B slot, which is in the infield, watching the guy tag second or whatever, and the guy pulled his foot. Well, I called him, out. And that's where your umpires got to get together and say, hey, we got to get this right. Somebody's not going to like the outcome, but your job is to get the call right. No matter what, get the call right and live with it. I mean, those guys got together and they both said, this is what I got. Because I actually worked with one of the officials and we did the quarterfinal. And he's been to state several times. So I know he's a good official. So they got together and discussed it, and he knew somebody ain't going to like this call, but you got to stay with it. And hey.
And you know what, gentlemen, on that, I'm going to teach these coaches a lesson. We're going to let the official have the last word there. And we're going to wrap up what's turned into one of our longer shows, Ray Halbrook. But I'm going to turn it back over to you. I want to thank Charles and Zach. Great conversation. We had some things on our sheet we didn't even get to because there were some really good questions popping in there. And so I'm sure we could go for hours about that. And depending on how Jarvis's cup's going, some of the questions might get a little more direct. But we're going to turn it over to you, and we'll do a wrap. There's that Herky Black Cat cup there.
Right.
So, Ray,
ring the bell. Ring the bell. That's all I have to say about that right there. So, hey, guys, thanks so much for being on, and appreciate it. We'll catch you back up, I'm sure, again. And
thank you so much for thank you so much for the invitation. And I know on the first week y'all were trying to talk about small businesses. Just want to give a shout out to a couple. You got Doghouse and Crystal. Man, it's a great story that they've had. Great food at the Doghouse, and Rich's frozen custard.
Awesome.
It's two local businesses that really do it right.
Good stuff. Appreciate that. So thanks again, guys. And we're going to zap out of here and let you know, don't forget, we will be back on the air Thursday. We'll have our second half of the Main Street Sports Seniors 2020 we'll finish up our second half of our schools, highlighting the seniors in baseball and in softball. So it'll be Jeff Whitener and myself for Main Street Sports. And again, don't forget, check us out here on all of our different outlets: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, the Roku channel, Instagram, Twitch, and Periscope. So if you're out there on any of these, check us out at Livestream STL. Also, don't forget, you can check out our Roku channel again one last time, our last push on that. And this is how you get a hold of it: videos.tkdssports.com. Finally, if you're interested in sponsoring with us, and we thank you so much, thanks so much for all of our sponsors tonight. We had quite a few, which has been great, and we're hoping to have our summer sports being able to be kicked off here, and we will be definitely looking for sponsors for that, for 253 baseball, for American Legions. Also, we're going to try to expand and do more than just 253 games, but so we'll have maybe some Rock Memorial games, maybe some St. Gen 150 games down south. So we've already talked to the coaches. They said they're in if we're going to be able to play. So we're hoping to get some American Legion ball here, hopefully maybe here in June or July. So if you're interested in sponsoring with us on that, give us a call, 314-852-4398. Sponsor with us. Also, you can email us at livestreamstloutlook.com. For Ray Halbrook and all of us here at Livestream STL, we're going to say so long. We'll see you Thursday, 7 o'clock for Main Street Sports. Have a good evening.